Welcome, everyone, to another RGL cast. Thanks for chilling through the intermission after the Highlander that we all just witnessed. We have Froyotech versus Witness Gaming here. This is RGL Invite 6's Season 8, Week 5B. A little bit of catch up, but it is late in the season nonetheless. My name is Jarrett. I'm casting tonight with Space Ghost, and we have quite the match on Viaduct here. Got both teams that have been at the top of Invite for a while now, and definitely proven it time and time again that they are able to put on some pretty entertaining matches, and I can't wait to see what is going to happen tonight here on Viaduct Space.
Yeah, very excited. Always love Viaduct / Product. Always a a classic staple map and always a good cast to watch. Definitely a very exciting map. And we are running. We do have currently 10 players in the server. So the Sixes players patiently waited for the Highlander to end. So on that note, do we want to do rosters? Want to just get right up and going?
Yeah, let's speedrun rosters because there is one thing to note. There is a roster change, so I'll go ahead and get that out of the way and go through Witness Gaming roster. The roster change is Alpha is out and High Five is in. High Five is taking on the role of Flank Scout. You have Brand Slam with him as always. Laz and Ash on Soldier, Artist on Demo, and Low Guy on Medic for the side of Witness Gaming.
And for Froyotech, same as it's been the season, we have Jay and Banny on Scout, Marmaloo and Mirrorman on Soldier, Habib on Demo Man, and May on Medic.
A little sad to see Alpha gone, but seeing out High Five playing pretty hype. Saw him at the LAN that happened out in February and was a monster, even though the placement of his team was, wasn't too crazy, but it's impressive showing from a lot of their players. And High Five in the past, very decorated player. Happy to see him on a top 2 team once again, and can't wait to see how things are going to transpire throughout the Witness Gaming playstyle as they continue to bring some new blood. Not new blood as in like a new player to the scene, but a new player to their roster in terms of like what you try to employ as a team. Every player has a little bit of a different flair to them and what they bring and the style that they play. And curious to see how they're going to work around, integrating High Five into the team, especially since it's such a newer change. We saw, I think, a little bit. I think it was might have been a TFTV stream. I don't actually remember, honestly, but we've seen him a little bit playing with Witness. I think it was a Metalworks match, and he slammed. He did really, really good. But this is the number 1 team. This is the team. Froyotech, they're slated for first seed as what is normally the currents. They only have one more match to go until they would be considered undefeated this season. If they do collect this one, they will be. For the side of Witness, they haven't completely solidified the second place slot, despite being 1 or 2 in the past year or so. But this would definitely be a very nice safety net for them to make sure they could get no lower than 2 if they're able to win this match. And at the very least, it's a very nice introduction of what playoffs could be later on as the bracket runs. So definitely a lot to see. And what are you looking forward to, Space? There's a couple things in my mind when I think about these 2 teams playing on Viaduct, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how High Five integrates into the whole team dynamic and the return of the purple cockfighter hat that is the High Five staple. I don't know how long he's been wearing it, but it's always when I see that I think, oh, that's the High Five hat. So
for sure.
Glad to see that coming back. I just like seeing Product in general. And also, I think High Five has played with some of these players before, so it's not like he's totally new. I believe he's played with Ash before on different teams. I think Laz as well. He has the experience that he probably knows all their strats, how they tend to go.
That's true. It is one thing to know that I think most of the time Brandsome does a lot of the calling, which I don't think that's a player he's necessarily played too much with, outside of like maybe pugs and stuff, like team environments. But they've definitely shown that they can get stuff done versus some of the top teams. So curious to see how that's going to go. But
is High Five traditionally a combo scout? Yeah, I was gonna say, so that might be a little unfamiliar, but in the end, it's still scout. Still roughly, still run around, double jump, shoot guys with the scatter gun. Still roughly the same, base dynamics. So probably not too much there to get into. And yeah, I'm curious about the map pick. Oh, sorry, you go.
One thing I want to see. We've talked a lot about Witness. Trying to talk a little bit about Froyo. I want to see Jay snipe on this map.
I do too.
I don't know if he's going to.
He's on scout now, that's the problem.
Past Froyotech teams, I don't know if they've necessarily been anti-sniper per se, but at the very least, they've coincidentally not had tons and tons of players that would choose to go sniper. Give or take a couple scenarios where like someone will go sniper just cuz and just out of the blue, or they would actually have like a sniper player on their team. So it's always interesting to see that sort of happen and how they kind of change the way they play, whether or not it's on the field or not. And we've already seen Jay Sniper a lot this season. I think a lot of people knew that Jay was going to be good because he's just a good player, and we've seen that time and time again, even before he was playing Scout. But to really get to see his ability to play Scout and Sniper in an atmosphere that's not a lower division or a pub has been insane. And with this being such a classic, like, oh, the Sniper, it's so annoying to deal with. How do we win? Because the Sniper is there. Like, that's just the staple of competitive for the past, like, I don't know how many years, is Viaduct Sniper being a thing. I'm curious to see, one, how much he's able to achieve compared to normal on this map, and two, how does Witness fare at trying to deal with it as a threat if it pops up. At this point, we can probably go ahead and throw in some predictions. We got a lot of people joining the server. I think we're just waiting on like one Witness player to stop being AFK or so, and then we are probably good to go. So it's not too much longer. It's always good news. But Space, predictions. What do you think we are going to see out of both teams? Reminder to everyone voting that it's 2-4 because it's Koth.
King of the Hill does go 2-4, not the 5. And I was actually thinking, I was going to bring it up that I feel like when we see these two teams, I think you could argue that Witness has been a pretty dominant team on Koth, but I feel like Product actually, Froyo has been historically pretty dominant against Witness on this map. At least from my current memory, the matches I've seen, Froyo has definitely come on top pretty dominant. So, maybe a high 5 brings up something new, but I will say, I feel like it's on Witness to prove themselves here, because I feel like Froyo has had very similar rosters to this and done very well on Product, at least recently. So, yeah. I will say, I think it's like a 4-1 or a 4-2 in favor of Froyo.
I think Froyo has proven themselves a little bit more on this particular Koth map than the Witness has. Like, a lot of the time, the Witness has found a lot of success, especially in the season that they won. It was on the other Koth maps, not this one per se. That doesn't necessarily mean they're bad at it, but
they did lose it that series.
Yeah, that's true. If you had to pick a winner, Froyotech feels like a little bit of a safer choice, but to see Witness Gaming succeed on this map, I don't think a whole lot of people would be necessarily surprised. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for my prediction, I'm kind of feeling like the only way that a really even-ish scoreline shows up at all where a team gets rounds, is probably going to be if they're even in the first place, and I don't know if that's my initial instinct. I would feel like Froyotech would have like at least somewhat of a small edge. So I'm going to say, as we get ready to go ahead and go live and find for ourselves, I'll throw like a 4-1 for Froyo.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens.
I think we're on the same vibe there. And on that note, we are going to be starting here. Going into Viaduct, we do have both demos rolling at the mid, all the good standard stuff, and no off classes, just cookie cutter stuff.
Yep,
looks like Artist
set the pace.
Yeah, we do have a bit of spam just going back and forth on the screen. I see Blast going behind and a double bomb from Froyotech onto Artist. Artist getting surfed in. Marmaloo is going to fall, but the Froyotech is getting so aggressive on these pushes. But the rebound from the soldiers, there's a lot of kills going left, right, and center. But Witness Gaming haven't actually fallen, and the Froyotech soldiers have fallen. And looks like Froyo is going to have to back up here after the double bomb, sadly, was just not able to be cleaned up on.
Yeah, that was a great play from Artist. He saw he was a target, surfed away, so that pretty much both Froyo soldiers were just giving up their lives for nothing, really. They weren't able to secure any of the kills, and with that not being a try to Witness Gaming, easily take this first cap as theirs. Clock starting to tick down. Both teams are finally encroaching on their Uber, and May and Habib are starting to poke around a little bit, but it's going to be a sack wave. Not what you would expect, and Logeye was definitely not prepared to get synced on by so many classes all at once. Normally, you expect the team to just go ahead and go for an exchange, but the surprise factor is working in Froyotech's favor. Jay trying to get a last breath, but will not be able to clean up one, but I'm sure they are A-okay with taking down Logeye, his Uber, and 2 soldiers to boot. So Froyotech in a very, very nice spot and a very good heads-up play that Witness Gaming did not see coming.
I think Logeye literally went from 150 to 0 in one game pick. Like, I didn't even see his health go down. He just he just basically kill-blinded. That was brutal. So Froyotech do have this full Uber to work with. I do see Froyotech soldiers kind of getting spammed. And here comes a kind of a fake bomb or pseudo bomb from Ash onto the scouts. But Froyotech are just going to take this for free, and High Five is going to actually fall. So Froyotech not even having to use their Uber to take this is actually fantastic for them. Because now they can maybe try to pressure them a little against the forward hold. They see Marmaloo taking a fight on the flank here. Last is going to fall. Marmaloo going to get traded out. But actually, Jay's going to come to trade that out as well. And he's going to get another soldier as well. Just kills happening left, right, and center. Which does favor the offense here. So maybe Witness Gaming, once they get these spawns, are able to come back. But they have a 4-second window here once they get their spawns to try to do something.
Yeah, if you're not going to get that force there and you're going to lose the cap, at least they traded some people so they do respawn a bit quicker, and it's going to be a sec for Marmalou and even Jay to really get there in time to stop this attempt at coming from Witness Gaming. Trying to work their way up the slope. They do have their Uber ready to go, walking over to the other side of the rock. Ransom trying to get a little bit on the point and trying to put some damage into Habib, blast him back as the spam goes back and forth. Both roamers dying over on the concrete side as the teams rotate over to begin to meet each other, but the Uber's still not out yet. Definitely playing this very slow and trying to milk the most they can out of every single situation possible. A lot of damage on both the scouts. Might be a little bit more passive inside of Witness. Bransam really cast it back up and go for a pack from Mirrorman, taking some fake bombs, but this slow gameplay, I mean, it's really working in the favor of Froyotech. So far, this Witness attempt to try to retake the point is not leading to too much, and Bransam finally pushing across the point on Habib, going to be able to get flashed up and backing away and making sure that Domain is A-okay and safe, but still, I mean, to get some damage, but they haven't really achieved much, so we'll see what the dry has in store for us.
Yeah. Froyotech's very happy to sit here because they have the point the entire time. There's no, there's no reason for them not to. We do have both Witness soldiers going behind by Cliff here. Going to be a rebomb from Ash, going to fall. Laz is actually in the enemy spawn here, and Witness still haven't capped.
Yeah, they're going to wait for Ash to respawn, I think, so his spawn is not delayed. Good play. I don't think Froyotech is really able to prevent that from happening. You know, sometimes you can see teams be a bit greedy and accidentally not cap at all, but with no soldiers alive, yeah, look at that, and Ash is ready to go. So overall, I mean, technically worked. It killed a lot of time, though. Like, it was definitely a long and drawn-out way for Witness Gaming to eventually retake that. So we'll see what has in store for us for the rest of this match, as pretty much everyone, I think, has returned to be able to go ahead and fight over this point. So far, it's just spam back and forth. I think both teams are recognizing with how little they need to actually get their Uber. Just going to make sure they have it as a tool before they get ready to rare and to go and get onto the point. A lot of players dropping low. Last be the first one to fall. Jay making sure that kill is cleaned up, and Ash needs an arrow to make sure he's able to continue staying in this fight. Same with Jay, just hemorrhaging off the health packs, but they keep getting forward. Branson tries to clean up, but actually going to die to a bomb in from the Mirrorman. Getting onto the demo is going to be able to eat an arrow fighting Mirrorman, but will eventually get him, and your second pipe will hit. But that's so much gameplay that's so passive back in their own valley. That's just enough room for Frick to go ahead and take the point without even needing to use their Uber.
Yeah, Froyotech has been taking these points with Uber without using, and I feel like Witness really has to struggle to take these, and they actually had to use in the end too. So the Froyotech holds them pretty dominant here, but we do see High Five and Lolguy getting very aggressive on the point. Lolguy is going to take a bit of damage here, but Froyotech is going to get forced out just by like pipe spam. Here comes Lolguy with his Uber ready to do some work. We do see Andy on concrete. Ash does manage to bomb, but he is going to fall. Actually, here comes the bomb from Marmalou going behind, doing massive damage, but he's unable to collect a kill. They do actually get Artist off of that. There's a lot of kills going left, right, and center here. Everyone's kind of falling, but in the end, Froyotech still do have the point, although they've bled a lot of players for Jared.
Yeah, another situation where if you're going to lose the cap there, at least get this many kills. And actually, with this many players left alive, it begs the question, was that really worth it for the side of Froyotech to, go ahead and go for that and give up that many resources to get that cap? Side of Witness Gaming, at the end of the day, going to be pretty happy with that. Everyone's up and raring to go. Like I said before, Mirrorman has taken a sec for him to really get there, to wait and roll out. So it's going to be a sec before the Froyotech spam comes in. It might be another situation where
be very hurt.
You just recognize that you got to wait a sec for the Uber to get ready to go. I mean, Jay got on the point, got a little bit of cap time, but May is nowhere near aggressive. I think he's finally starting to get a little bit more aggressive. Now they have the Uber, both sides, May and Lolguy, so we'll see how this kind of transpires. Bandy getting onto the point. The rest of the team, Uber get popped up by both sides, trying to fight as much damage as possible can, chasing down High Five, but able to take a pack. Be A-okay, a little bit of damage with the Marmalou. He's also going back to packs, so packs are gone. The fight's raring and ready to go. Froyotech have to play aggressive here to get onto this point. They can't really afford to not. Bransam gonna fall. That's huge for them, making sure the scout's not there. Give up Mirrorman though, so they're able to take the cap, but at what cost? Gonna be a little bit of slower respawner for their team there, but they do have 10 seconds left, so now the things kind of flipped around. Now it's Witness Gaming in the driver's seat has to begin to push. They don't have their scouts yet, with the last at late death, and no scouts ready to get on the point. There's no overtime. Someone has to get onto it. Artist popping there, trying to walk forward to get on it, but it is not there in time. So at the end of the day, the resources lost by Witness Gaming to try to prevent Froyotech from getting that cap was a bit too much, and a pretty easy win near the end of that for the side of Froyo, but boy, was that back and forth.
I feel like if Witness were able to shave off a couple seconds off of that one fight that took so long to get to the point, they would have had the time to rejoin the point. They could have very easily won that round if they just didn't take so long that one time to try to get the point without having to use. So definitely a good holds from Froyotech here, making sure that we just can't cap this point for free. And then we do see Marmalou getting a little aggressive on the flank. Laz is going to jump behind, so we have players behind as well. Jay going to run through the flank too, but going to get bombed by Ash, and here comes another bomb from Mirrorman trying to land behind as well. So we do have a lot of soldiers running around the back lines of both teams.
Yep, Marmalou going to fall. So gonna be a bit of a player advantage for the side of Witness Gaming. They're unable to find Mirrorman, is able to escape, just did a loop-de-loop around the back end of the side of Witness, but overall just a little bit of a spam war. Actually, it's gonna be Artist that gets very low, needs an arrow to be able to continue to fight this.
Mirrorman hurt again.
Yeah, Witness is starting to get really aggressive now. A lot of damage over on the flank side. They're giving up a lot of their health for it though, and once again losing both scouts. That's gonna immediately end it. Another pipe onto Artist. Ash needs an arrow, is unable to fight. Things are starting to go well near the end of that for the side of Witness, but both scouts dying right in succession. That's gonna be the nail in the coffin for this mid fight.
Yeah, I feel like Froyotech doing a really good job stabilizing here. Now that Ash gonna eat a massive air
against
shot.
the wall.
There was some air shots going out there. On that note, Witness Gaming sack, no kills, no force. Not what you like to see. And on that note, that's
forward hold. Yeah,
yep.
you
dreaded forward hold.
You gotta get at least one kill there. Like if their medic is nowhere to be seen, you can't get him. At least get something. So this is not the situation you find yourself in. You know, there's a little hole, little chink of the armor that you can find a way through and not have to immediately die. But speaking of immediately dying, Mirrorman immediately dies at the very beginning of this forward hold. That immediately has them backing up. So Branson doesn't even need to play the Pyroclast.
Oh, I was very excited to see the Pyroclast Vitality's gone. Maybe actually going to take a little bit of damage back in from Cliff. Marmalade too, just doing some spam. Actually, yeah, we see some fake bombs coming in here as Witness are trying to get forward. Ash going to actually eat a nice air shot bow there to help keep him alive. So good shot from Wall Guy there. But the Witness Gaming Soldier is getting rolled, just trying to get in. May is going to fall though. The Beam's actually going to fall from this early Uber.
They noticed that May went back for a pack after he got hurt, but Beeb did not, so they immediately just went in and tried to go for him. But unfortunately for them, that's all they got. They weren't even able to get May. So May still has this Uber to use, and they're thinking about using it, just dropping off the cliff as a surprise potentially.
They're so scared of this Uber.
Point. They still own the point after all is said and done. Marmalou is going to fall on the flank side, but Laz will sure get cleaned up here, unable to eat an arrow, and Bandy will make sure that frag is collected. But with Bandy over on the flank, I mean, May's just kind of alone. Only now does he have Mirrorman Habib with him, so I mean, they still have not been in a spot to use this Uber, but still are somehow winning. Froyotech is definitely making it very clear that the Uber is not the main thing that is leading them to success in these fights.
Yeah, I feel like the threat of the Uber there was more scary than the actual Uber that might have happened. That they were so scared of the potential Uber happening, even though the Froyotech was on the back of their cliff, you know. The Witness was just like, I feel like they just were too afraid to stand at the point and cap, and that kind of like led their demise that fight. And on that note, we do have they're gonna keep going again. Witness Gaming very quickly approaching their Uber, and Froyotech's just happy to keep sitting here and basically not really do much and just continue to play the game. Here comes the bomb.
Here's the sack.
Yep, there comes the sack. They do manage to get Artist here, so that's a big pick. A lot of Froyotech players running around, getting cleaned up by Branson on a 3K on a. Right, so Branson 3K, high five, and on that note, we might see a Witness Gaming forward hold. They have the players.
I mean, maybe, but like the fact that Artist isn't there makes things really hard. Like
they're thinking about it.
He's not gonna get there in time, really. They're already through.
Yeah.
This is, I mean,
Froyotech chose the right door. They were heads up on that.
They knew that if there was
actually trying to collapse there. They
get
get May. So Artist does get May, and Baby's
the
fall
force
too.
wasn't good enough for Law Guy though. The force does indeed happen. So I mean, it's not bad, but it's not. Yeah, now is the forward hold time. Being down just Laz, that's doable. You can work with that.
Yeah,
Jay's trying to salvage something.
Yeah, Jay's around the house. I think he's trying to buy time so Froyotech can help. Then sadly wasn't able to buy enough time. And on that note, yeah, Laz is actually going to spawn, so they're going to be down one soldier if there's forward hold, so it's going to be a little weak. So I wouldn't be surprised to see players back up. Yeah, they're just kind of trying to barrel through. And then Ash actually is going to fall, so I guess that is the downside. But you do see very hurt Mirrorman there. He eats a bow! Huge plays from May there, keeping Mirrorman alive. He has 2 health in the air and gets saved by May.
Yep, so 1 player down for the side of Witness. Pretty much even Ubers for the most part. 10% is not something I'm going to necessarily take into account, but I am going to take into account. Holy slaughtering over on the flank. Jay's going crazy.
Wall Guy has Uber. Nope, there's no one here. It's just Wall Guy versus Jay. And there's the follow-up. No one up, cleaned up. Ash does get Jay, but Jay got Wall Guy, which is the real pick there. And Froyotech, gonna wait for their 2 players to spawn. We're gonna take this point pretty easily back, I'd assume.
Just walked across the other team's concrete like they owned it and found a lot of success there. The Wall Guy pick at the very end was very, very good as well, obviously. So May 90%, Wall Guy 10. Very, very big ad for the side of May, so gonna have to see what Witness Gaming does in terms of gonna go for a straight up sack or do you go
35 seconds.
Flank?
Yeah, the time might come to factor because they want a sack, they have to go now. Ash is gonna buy time distracting around. Last gonna fall though. Ash actually managed to get Marmalou and he's alive for now, so that's definitely pretty important. Ash is actually running around causing a lot of mayhem, way more than I expected. And then Habib, there's a scout on him, can he live? He eats a bow, but he's gonna fall to a straight Artist pipe. Jay could be hurt too, because that Froyotech is gonna be kind of hurt for this, but we'll have to see. Froyotech still have this Uber. They actually are gonna use this. Little guy is caught out, not going to be able to heal anyone. Witness Gaming do have the cap time on the point here to win this, but it just depends if they can get to the point in time for this overtime.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, little guy not having a heal beam there for scout speed is going to be pretty unfortunate, but I like the way the Witness took that. They recognized that the forces onto Mei weren't working. He was too high up on the cliff. It was a little bit difficult to get there. They said, hey, if Mei's all the way over on the left side of the map, I bet their flank isn't buffed at all. So they ran in. Ash did his little distraction to make them locked down and preoccupied, and really the big play was going over to the flank, making sure those Froyotech players were killed, and try to use the player ad to make sure the force eventually happened. So gonna be a bit of a clean slate for this fight, but this overtime for the side of Froyotech is definitely something to keep in mind. Witness Gaming can suffer no flaws in this fight, and they're already starting to drop pretty low.
Marmaluke, yeah, okay, they trade out that Marmaluke deal, which is good, but you do have a 1v1 with Jay and High Five, and Jay is going to win that fight versus High Five. That might be disastrous opening. Mei is going to eat a bit of damage here, but Froyotech is just on the point. Habib going to fall is pretty big, though, but they got to stand on the point. Look at the point time!
Yeah, too little, too late. They went back to try to deal with Mirror Man, but that tied up Ransan for too long, and then Artist can only do so much damage. They stacked on top of it, able to collect that kill, and that is a very swift 2-0 half. I mean, it wasn't completely one-sided. Witness Gaming got under 60 seconds, both halves, I'm pretty sure, but still, it really looked like Froyotech was in control over a decent portion of that match, and the score definitely shows.
Yeah, it was strange too, because when I think of traditional like sixes Viaduct dominance, I think of forward holds. Yeah, that's when I think of like a really dominant match. And Froyotech, I don't think they ever got a forward hold off. They just sat on the point, and like I feel like Witness, it was a really tough nut to crack in terms of Witness actually getting the point without having to use so many resources that it wasn't worth it. I feel like the Froyotech holds are really coming in strong. So I don't know if it's maybe Witness Gaming has to go figure out how they want to push the point, what they want to do. They managed to get a little bit at the end with that like kind of Ash like distraction bomb, but I feel like that's the story so far. It's just Froyotech holding on to the point for extremely long periods of time.
Yeah, I mean, here, I'll say this. I try to say more about how a team is doing good and the other team is doing bad, but I don't think I can ignore the possibility of I don't Witness Gaming play that very slow a lot. And at the end of the day, this is time-based, right? So you can find some success eventually, but if you just don't do it quick enough, then it's kind of the end of the day. That's your nail in the coffin. So part of me feels less that like, oh my gosh, Froyo did so good with that hole, like it was crazy, but more like Witness Gaming, when they didn't own the point, their ability to retake it left something to be desired almost.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like damage was like Artist did 466 DPM, so that he's doing a large amounts of numbers. Habib, Slash himself did 350, but it's like Artist, the combo scouts. I feel like the real thing is that there's some sad soldiers. I guess Ash had a good game. Just Laz had kind of a sad soldier game, but so did Mirrorman. I feel like the stats are like
that's Soldier on Viaduct.
Yeah, it's Soldier on Viaduct. Especially because if you're just sometimes your job is just to go have a sad game and die, and that might be Laz's designated roles to have the sad game today. So it really just do be like that sometimes. But I will say that the stats are like they're not too far off considering how I feel dominant that looked for Froyotech. But I guess that's maybe just because it's a lot of spam back and forth.
Yeah. Cough logs are kind of hard to like hyperanalyze just because difference in the amount of sacking that's done between the teams can really like lead to a couple people with really terrible stats because they had to just die over and over again for the sake of getting a force, and then people that just get inflated damage and kills because they were fed like a free player that was trying to give up their life right. But I don't know. Witness Gaming did do more damage. They made sure that Froyotech was very hurt in a lot of the gameplay, but I guess we'll kind of see what happens in the second half as things transpire. That was a pretty short halftime, so I guess there's not many adjustments for the teams to make in their minds, or at least if they know what they are, then they're ready to do them.
We'll have to see. Here comes both soldiers coming in again. Last gonna jump behind. I do see Habib getting jumbled around. Jay gonna fall. Artist gonna fall. A lot of deaths left, right. A lot of deaths everywhere right now. As looks like Witness is gonna be on top of this. Mei and who is that? Vanny? Yeah, that's Vanny gonna back up. Vanny actually a little caught here. Is he gonna be able to get us? Someone ate him. Ransom ate a bow and died. They did trade it out, but that's a tragedy. That actually might help Froyotech with this refight here. We'll have to see if Witness's spawn gets denied or not. It actually did. Okay, so the funny Viaduct bug. Yeah, the funny Viaduct bug. Grant Sam's point got delayed. Unfortunately.
Yep, so gonna be down a scout for at least a moment, but High Five's there ready to push them, and actually they're going to go for an exchange, trying to get on a Mei. The Uber will come out from the side of the blue team running forward, trying to at least kept it out in some capacity. The rest of the team backs up. They've been holding back the beginning of this match for at least, that's been the theme so far. Just hold us. It's been for the mid, it's been for the post Uber, and it's really working out for the most part. They only give up Laz to collect these 3, and now they're on the chase, trying to collect Jay and May as they begin to link up and try to retreat through Mania. Soldier bombing in, but Ash will not end up being able to collect that kill, but the scouts are on the chase, able to make sure that Jay does die, but May already very, very gone. So ultimately, May survives, but Witness Gaming are able to make sure they hold on to the point a little bit longer.
This already looks like the script is flipped entirely just from those two fights. We didn't see, I feel like we didn't see any of that the first half with these dominant Witness Gaming fights where they're just like having scouts run forward at the enemy team at the end of these fights.
So far they've been holding S a lot, trying to farm the Froyotech players that are going in, and it's working out for now, but the question is how long is this going to be the theme? When will Froyotech change up a little bit? And so with that artist pick, that's going to be huge for them. There's no more spam onto Jay as he gets onto this point, make sure it's capped up, and you don't even need an Uber in play to make sure that happens for the side of Froyotech. A little bit of some shenanigans from the side of Marmaloo to buy some time and some space for his team and make sure they're able to get out scot-free, eating an arrow to continue up and existing over by the concrete side, but Uber's in play for both teams. A little bit weak for the side of LOLGuy, so it might be difficult for him to really walk forward as confidently without Ubering really early, but Ubering early is what they'll do nonetheless. On to B. Flashes all around. So far, the Froyotech Uber is a little bit worse because they have to make sure they're flashing at least a little bit, but not too much damage to really call for in either direction at the end of the day, but everyone's relatively healed up. Oh, immediately. As soon as I say that, caster stroke, both scouts immediately falling. Again, we're starting to see it. LOLGuy popping up the air, trying to surf his way to an escape, but will ultimately die, landing near Laz, who will also die, taking out Banny at the end of the day with him as well. May, one rocket into the air, gonna be a-okay, no one else left alive, and Froyotech are making sure that they hold on to this point.
Yeah, I saw, like, even though May had the flash there, his Uber was, like, just, like, 15 to, like, 20% better, and with that, like, little bit of Uber they had, they really stood on top of the point and just shot down at Witness Gaming. I feel like that really made the difference there in terms of just, like, their post-fight positioning was much better. But Witness Gaming are able to actually take an immediate recap without losing anyone, and even though they had dissets, that's actually a really kind of, I'm not gonna say a big break, but that's actually really big for Witness Gaming just because now it's on Froy to actually do something with this Uber, or at least, you know, they have to edge the cap. It's a lot easier for Witness Gaming now.
Oh,
that's what can happen is, yeah, try to edge the cap there, and one of your players can just kind of instantly die.
Yeah, when Froyotech initially took the point, they had to give up so many resources. I think 3 people to cap it, so it makes sense that Witness Gaming immediately takes it back, but it's surprising. I mean, I guess there's the Uber in play. I mean, they can get a force or something, but Laz goes in, unable to find it. See some aggression from both scouts. LOLGuy, nice and passive to make sure he doesn't die to it, and able to get his Uber of his own, but Banny will finally get on the point and cap this up for the side of Froyotech to get the clock working in their favor once again. So once again, the force not happening in favor of Froyotech. They make sure they can hold on to it a little bit longer. Witness Gaming on the drive to try to push forward and get some damage on the other team to maybe even use, and that's what they're going to do. Walking forward, and the other team going to have to be able to get Jay. Trade for 5-5 though, so 1-for-1 ultimately. So going to loop back around, and they're playing really safe, making sure that they can get everyone live, healthy, ready to go. They want to arrow up Ash, and it seems like they're trying to plan something long term here, like they have been, to make sure they can try to retake this in their favor. Froyotech getting the respawners. Jay finally riding pipe on the LOLGuy. That's going to be really rough. It's going to be hard for him to stay aggressive.
Brand Slam
and that
too.
means Brand Slam can't keep
But Banny's going to fall.
This is going to end that fight immediately. The fact that LOLGuy got piped and he couldn't beam his players at all that were fighting, Laz is dead, Brand Slam had to back up, the flank fight's happening, and now both guys are going to die again to the flank.
Artist is caught out too. LOLGuy, can he make it to spawn in time? He's not. That's pretty much a wipe. That actually is a wipe.
That one pipe snowballed the fight so hard.
Yeah, especially because, yeah, that position, yeah, that was actually crazy. That one pipe, Froyo was able to clean up on those little advantages so hard and now they've turned one pipe into a forward hold with Uber.
Yeah, can't heal and you can't fight. That's how it goes. So this is gonna be really rough. I mean, they have an Uber for the side of Froyotech, but the Pyro is kind of in the way, blowing back a little bit, and they're able to get through, trying to find some damage. Able to get near man. Banny dropped to 1 HP, and the rest of the team's backing up in suit. They've recognized that forward hold is long gone and over, and they're just gonna play out the advantage they currently have, which is their Uber. Down 1 player, but it's fine. You can get some more, but Witness Gaming, they are definitely not fine right now. Uber coming out, immediately Artist melting, trying to chase the LOLGuy to make sure that they're not able to leapfrog back and forth. LOLGuy is escaping at least for now, but yeah, the point time.
Last is on it, last man.
You want to escape the Uber, but you gotta go to the point, and it's stuck between a rock and a hard place there. Not too much you can really do for the last 15 seconds of that round. Froyotech and making sure that they keep the train rolling in their favor.
That did look better for Witness Gaming, even if it didn't like look on the clock better. I felt like that looked better overall in terms of like them contesting Froyo. It
It's
felt more
weird.
down.
The
Yeah.
beginning looked better, but I think that's the worst amount of time they've put so far. So they fell
Yeah,
off hard near the end. So we'll
they
have to see what
did.
adjustments continue to happen as this mid and the rest of the round transpires.
Yeah. See, but yeah, they're lucky to have both their soldiers go find it. Vanny gonna immediately get face planted into by Laz, Brent, and Ash. Ash gonna fall.
Oh,
There's
high
that,
five! Wow, he dies to May. He almost had that kill, but it's just Artist and Logai left alive. They're trying to escape. Habib is behind, kind of. Artist is able to escape just barely. Oh, he wants a katana fight. Oh no, they're not gonna. He's gonna live. Okay, I kind of want to see a katana
yeah,
fight.
I think they honestly, I feel like they would have if Marblue Marblue was kind of there and he didn't realize what was happening. So his mirror mid. Sorry, mirror mid is gonna fall. So no katana fight, sadly. Ash actually gonna eat a trap and gonna be out of this fight for a little bit as Artist is up, but you know he's kind of hurting on his own and he's gonna fall for that because no one really went to support him. Yeah, that's a dude.
What? Witness is very out of sync right now. Like Artist was up behind the rock while Logai was still behind the house, and they were on opposite sides of the house diagonally. Like they were nowhere near each other. Like it seems like Witness is very much on different pages right now at the pace at which they're playing, and that's gonna be really rough for the beginning of this match. You definitely want to set, or beginning of this round rather. You want to definitely set the pace as much as you possibly can for these really close endings where there's very little time on both sides. And Laz dying over on the flank side is not going to be beneficial for them. They have the Uber to use as a tool if they need it, but something's got to go their way eventually if they want to be able to get some time. More flanks from Froyo. Banny over on the sidelines, able to take out Ash, looping around, going through spawn, and going to be able to fight another soldier. High five kicks down Marmalou, so that's something they have in their favor to use, but they did get forced, though. So that's very, very beneficial for the side of, yeah. They didn't get Banny, which is something, but still, the fact that you got the force and only had to spend 2, I mean, it's not bad. You have the Uber of your own to go for it, and it looks like they're holding their ground for Froyotech. They want to make sure that they have to use as much as possible Witness if they want to take this. Yeah. They're giving up a little bit now.
Yeah, they gave up a little bit, but I think they want to come back in after they get the point here, just so the Witness respawns are that much worse. I think that's their plan here. Is they now they want Witness to get the points. That way, when they do push, they can settle into a forward hold or something similar to that. But on that note, Froyotech actually are they have Uber ad, but they're just kind of sitting around. I feel like they're starting to go.
Yeah, they got all their players buffed up. They knew they had a big enough ad where they could play a little slow and be fine. And I mean, it's 20 now. They should eventually start going if they want to use the ad. But so far, the trend of this match is the Uber has not been the thing that's won them the fights. For the most part, it's just been out spamming or straight up going for a flank kill. They'll finally be able to get on the point. Witness, Brink, across the point, getting some flash out of the fight of Froyotech. Lad actually getting very weak over on their own back line, so it's going to be difficult for them to do a post-bomb situation, so no aggression from the side of Witness, and none from Froyotech either, because they own the point. They don't need to initiate if they don't want to, so just spam for now as both scouts try to post up behind the rock, but Logai, oh, he's taken so much damage. He's left his scouts out to dry. Mirror Man's finding the opening, hits his head a little bit, isn't able to chase. Marmalou jumping behind as well, causing a distraction, will eventually give up his life, so there's going to be one in favor for the side of Witness. That was almost amazing for them if they were able to make sure that the fact that Logai backed up again, they're able to get kills, but not going to work out that time in the favor of Froyotech. Witness Gaming holding on strong, at least a little bit.
Ransom gonna fall, but
Habib able to get that kill and that trade out, but they've given up 3 both their soldiers for 1 dome, man. And they're maybe able to get this cap. They get Mirror Man, but you don't want to extend your spawns because that could be the nail in the coffin here, depending on how things go. Yeah, they're delaying at least a little bit to get someone up.
They want Laz up too, because yeah, the Mirror Man and Habib spawns are delayed, but definitely.
Though. I punish them.
Yeah, they're in. Ubers are roughly even though. If Witness Gaming goes, they have a very they have like 5% Uber, and if they pop as soon as they get, they can maybe do it. But there's no way they know that. Okay, Froyotech actually gonna pop first here. Witness gonna try to hold down Ubers, but the point they finally do get this point, and they're capping behind this Uber, and they're gonna lose Ash too. So Witness Gaming really have to get on the board and actually get on the point here pretty soon. I feel like Froyotech might snowball this. Artist falling is not gonna help.
Oh, here's the Uber trying to chase down Habib. He will be 1 casualty, 2 behind for the side of Froyotech. They're beginning to at least poke around and look for them as the rest of the team begins to make sure that May and Mirror Man are pushed out on the concrete side. Collapse coming from the side of Froyotech. Flank going in. Logai packed up to the pack, able to eat it to make sure he survives the first target from the side of Mirror Man. The second one isn't able to come out. Logai barely escaping on 40-ish HP. Bandy still hiding in the corner, trying to go for the kill. Force the money blow, just I5 takes him out. Timmy 2-shot, trying to fight Ash. Missed arrow, but will not have enough in the tank to bring down Ash as well. So overall, 1-for-1 trade. Logai surviving, and the point still owned by the side of Witness. They're slowly but surely starting to even up the fight at least a little bit, but we'll see how the rest of the round goes.
High five dropped a bruh in chat. I feel him on that one. That was a very unfortunate. Marmalou is gonna fall, so that's gonna put a little bit of a damper onto this Froyo push. Being down a flank player just makes it that much harder. Although there are Witness Gaming players here, and I think Froyotech's just gonna like to sit around for a bit while they wait for Marmalou to respawn, because fortunately he goes up pretty much immediately, so he's already back in the fight.
Yeah, especially because they haven't been using their Uber per se like as much. As soon as they say that, we're maybe about to use the Uber. Oh, they didn't even need to. They got artists without even needing to use. Now the Witness Gaming team is starting to push forward a lot on the damage players. But oh yeah, little guy not using. He's stuck in the corner. Now he has to use, but on a high five, he's definitely not prepared. Trying to chase down a frag, but unable to find any at all. The Witness Gaming were very not in sync there, unable to find what they needed in the collapse. On the little guy, one rocket. Mirror Man trying to come in and collect as many people as he possibly can, but not gonna get too much else there. Just both scouts, but a point for Froyotech. They're able to get the cap in their favor. They're gonna wait a sec for Marmalou to respawn and then go ahead and get it. Witness Gaming unable to stop that. Sniper on the field from Jay. So finally, we'll get to see how this transpires up on China. First shot is definitely one of the shots you want to see out of the side of Jay. But they have Laz die as well. Banny making sure that kill's cleaned up. Artist bombing in to get Jay, and they're really selling out for as much as they possibly can. As many kills. They got the Uber, they got a bunch of kills, but do you have enough to make sure that you can get overtime for this push after? That's the big thing. You got to respawn in time for overtime. Your scouts were once again the last people to die, so they're not really ready to go to like corner cap the point.
Back up on Sniper.
They might have just shot themselves in the foot. Maybe.
Yeah, Jay's gonna be here in time. Actually, Laz is behind. Actually, gonna eat a body shot from Jay. So yeah, they are gonna make it in time, but yeah, Jay's gonna be here just getting 3 shots off on China. So
the main pick is huge.
Yeah, the main pick is huge. They are gonna lose some people here.
Oh, they're all behind the rock. They're just eating the same damage. Mirror Man's going crazy. He's collected 2, even more damage from Marmalou to help clean up on, but it is not quite enough. They get all that kills and all the carnage behind the rock, but Witness Gaming stands strong, and you got get on the point, guys. Well, they were acting like they were like not capping to let their own team respawn, and I was like, "What are you doing? Just cap it." I think they're thrown for a loop there. Probably talking about other stuff.
Well, they got their there were spawns coming, but yeah, so Froyotech, they do have 10 seconds here to get on this point. Witness do have Ubers, so unless something really disastrous happens, I feel like this should be Witness Gaming round. So here comes the Ubers. Froyotech are gonna have to just run around and hope that they can have a decent post fight. They're gonna get last. That's a good start. Habib on the point trying to cap it by himself. May coming in trying to heal Habib, but this round looks to be a Witness Gaming. So Witness Gaming at the very end finally gonna get on the board, gonna try to make some sort of comeback in this match.
That ending there was deja vu, but the shoe being on the other foot, it's not a fun situation to have disad, but also like the other team having overtime. You want to run forward to get on the point so you don't lose, but you can't just die to the Uber, because that also leads to defeat. So rough spot for Froyotech near the end there, but it all comes down to the pacing of the round and how much time you really get down on the clock in your favor. So we'll see how this mid transpires and who is able to set the pace in their favor.
Yeah, here comes a double for Froyotech directly onto Lol Guy and Artist, and they're going to fall immediately. That was kind of a nuke, but they are going to get May off the back, so the Witness Gaming soldiers going behind, definitely going to help. Ransom going to run into Habib, going to try to get this back. Habib juking and driving. Oh! Ransom, can he get it? He gets it. Not his man.
That was a lot of aggression from both teams right off the bat. They immediately, I think, within 5 seconds of things really going down, I looked at the side of the board and there's like 3 people down on each team. They really went all in.
They did. I see a lot of Marmalous in the chat. He must have hit a sick air shot or something. Artist is going to fall back. Actually, Jay going to get hit a little bit of a shot. There's so many kills happening. Is that a Freo sack? Did they just want to go in?
No.
I saw May die.
May died next to Rock. They were ready to fight and continue, and now this is a sack trying to salvage the best they can. Habib up on China, trying to put the damage on Artist, but unable to collect the frag.
Good fight from Artist, and that's a full wipe, so Witness Gaming they're having a lot better starts this half than they did before, Jay back up on Sniper with a full buff to see what Jay can do to open this defense up. And that's a good start.
Surprise shot.
AFK on the rock. He was spotting the Sniper, and Sniper spotted, I suppose, and Jay back on Scout, so they got the initial pick they wanted. And now it's up to Freya to actually fight this before Branson comes back up.
Might be a sack just because they do have Disad, and they've done a lot of sacks when they've had Disad. They haven't done a lot of tries. The Uber is actually
an aggressive Uber, and
they found May
so
unprepared. They definitely caught them by surprise. Got Banny as well, only giving up Ash. Actually, might give a little bit more if they overstay their welcome, giving up their soldiers for that. And the collapse. They stayed a little bit too long, and they got pretty much an entire wipe. Spare Habib, but at what cost? When you respawn so much longer, it's kind of begs the question of, was it really worth it? You've gotten more out of that.
Volgai is going to be up. He didn't get the worst spawn of the universe. So he's going to be a good up here, but Froyotech's going to get... that's a really good... That's huge.
That's your corner capper. I mean, now Habib has to sit front and center and take some damage.
Yeah, that's actually, that's going to make this refight so much easier. Marmalou being down too, that just opens it up so much. Branson's going to fall. Actually, Habib, massive plays killing both scouts, going to really put this Witness Gaming push kind of just stopping it before it even really got off the ground.
Yeah, now it's kind of flipped a little bit. Don't have either scout really ready per se. Bransam has finally gotten here, able to get with his team and try to push and pressure a little bit. Bandy's actually extremely aggressive. The entire Froyotech team is just standing all around the point and over by concrete and either side of the rock to make sure that Witness Gaming is having a very hard time while they're waiting for everyone. And scouts are doing loops around the house, trying to apply some pressure and see what they can see. But so far, no dice for the side of Witness. I think they're just waiting for their Uber and trying to use it as a safety net. They have it ready to go, so Bransam running across the point. Habib, currently not beamed, does get flashed, so he's A-okay to be able to continue to fight this. For Laz going over to the flank.
High5 gets 2 kills, though. Gonna get chased down by Bandy, but Bandy, he's gonna be able to flash in time. Bransam can win this fight. It's
Bandy's beamed.
Scout
Just one
but Bandy's just, yeah.
He tied up the heels, though. He fought that one duel, but he tied up the heels and lived, so these other 2 kills.
5.
Yeah, Habib and Mirror just fall.
Bandy is fighting this.
What?
He actually, I don't know how they got out of that. That was stressful as a caster.
Yeah, I think Witness just didn't want to risk it. Just get the cap, whatever they can live.
Any kind of like Matrix dodged like 3 pipes. Otherwise, it was almost certain to. But on that note, I do see Habib's getting a little. Okay, he doesn't eat the sticky trap. Ash actually gonna bomb in. Both soldiers gonna bomb in. So let's see if they can do anything. Laz gonna fall pretty much immediately. Ash stuff up in the air. Probably not gonna be able to do too much. We do have Marmalou on the back line. They're gonna get both scouts. So the scouts coming in, getting good places huge, and they both live, which really helps out here. Even though they lost 3, it's gonna be kind of tough for Froyo to push into this a little bit, just because they're down players that matter. And Jay back up on sniper. Oh
yeah, I guess they figured that they need to be aggressive because of the sniper, and they'll just use this Uber as a tool to block the point. They're still holding strong.
He actually got off sniper.
Going across once again, trying to get this force out. Both teams are not able to find too much damage, really. Brandy's trying to chase Laz at least a little bit. Not going to commit, really. Then it's actually going to be a Marmalou that gets securing frags, so 1 player advantage inside of Froyotech. Bransam trying to hold on strong. The bomb coming from Ash getting onto the players onto the point, but the rest of the Witness game are holding us a little bit, trying to deal with the flank on the side of Froyotech. Jay and Marmalou will fall, giving up Ash for that. So at the end of the day, I mean, Witness Gaming, they've lost the point, but at least they got 2 with that, so they could try to, their second try could be pretty hardy if they get the respawners and give the dry push an honest chance.
They know they need to start fighting now before, worse things happen, but Froyotech, look at them, they're on the point. Habib gonna fall for the spam, so yeah, Froyotech trying to fight this, but they just didn't have the numbers for it, and Habib gonna end up falling, means that Witness Gaming are gonna get this point in a relatively short time, so that was, I think, a lot better than what we've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I think Witness is totally fine giving up, like, what was that, 15 seconds or so? For the sake of owning the point twice for an extended period of time. They have this Uber to run through as well, to use this tool to block, so sees them corner capping to the side of Froyotech, but may not really committed with the scouts to go ahead and go across quite yet, so playing a little bit slower. It's worked in the past. We'll see how things kind of go. Witness Gaming are playing a little bit passive as well, but a lot of cap time from the side of Bandy. Gonna get very low. Marmalou is gonna be the first one to fall, though, despite all the red health players and scouts on each side. So it's kind of worked for Froyotech, like a little bit, but it's taking a lot of time.
Oh, there they go.
Finally coming across CV, really weak. Oh, he barely gets flashed to be able to live. Almost dies. Gonna be really weak for this post. The rest of Witness Gaming backing up, make sure they don't get too much damage, and they are gonna be able to get this cap, I think, Froyotech, but they have to make sure they don't give up anyone for it.
Hurt.
They barely take it, don't really give up anyone up. So, I mean, it works for the side of Froyotech, but it took a long while.
Laz going
behind, drawing eyes, unable to get to the pack in time, so both soldiers giving up their lives. Artist is trying to get aggressive, backs up when he realizes the soldiers are dead. And
this is rough for Witness.
The time's in their favor, but both times are so low that if this second fight doesn't go Witness's favor in terms of the try, that's going to be the match. High five.
Yeah,
Damage. Oh, he's blasted back, unable to be saved.
Massive flank play. And it's just a Witness combo here. They're getting rushed down, but Jay gonna overextend a little bit. That might breathe a little bit of life back into it. Laz gonna bomb Habib, make sure Habib's hurt and kind of out of this fight. He's gonna eat it bow, but that lets Witness Gaming kind of get up here, but they need to get on the point or get point time here. Ash gonna need the air shot from Marmalou gonna get traded. Artist on the point doing massive damage.
They don't have Uber yet. 5%. Unable. They didn't even know. They straight up didn't even know it was out. They were just going as soon as they got it. So it's just a solo pretty much. Jay's rolling out. It's just Mirror Man in this solo Uber, trying to get as much damage as possible. One miss rock on a brain cell. That one hits though. Gonna get a little bit of damage. Eventually cleaned up. Jay in the thick of it, and May unable to really do much as a last standing person. So Cap going Witness Gaming's way, and they just got to get aggressive and not let anyone touch, and they're fine. They probably win this. There's not really too much you can do for the side of Froyotech. You run forward, but that's about it.
Yeah,
and
forward,
that 10 ad was huge. Like, May unable to save any of his players, able to kill 2. Had to solo Uber a soldier on Viaduct near the end of that. Definitely.
That might have been the head. They might have been able to see with you did like the medic head. There's a small. I don't know if he actually did, but if he was, that's a huge play for the unlock lets you see the enemy Uber. So who knows? They might have just gone because they kind of had to go, but.
I think you probably go, like with that amount of time, you obviously can't play slow, right? You
Yeah,
need the Uber to be over to start the cap, right? So
yeah.
just get cycle the Uber out. There was probably go as soon as you get was the call, and they just did that and coincidentally had ad.
On that note, Witness Gaming, this is where they need to dodge a bullet, right? Because Witness Gaming finally got back into this game, but now Froyo just need to win one more round. And here's where halftime where Banny can sit down and iron things out with his team. So Froyo I'm sure they're gonna come into this with either a new strat or a refined version of their previous strat. And so Witness really need to dodge a bullet here in terms of making sure that the Froyotech adjustments don't totally screw them. Because I think we've seen many, many times in the past that the Bandy or slash Froyo halftime adjustments can really make a difference. And
Yeah, the
that's the
best way
bullet to
to
dodge.
the best way to improve at something is to lose and get beaten. So
Yeah.
having a good example of that, in the middle of the match, get the halftime up and ready. You get a good example of like what is really your flaws, you know, that you need to fix. So Witness Gaming had that opportunity after the first half, and they showed that they can change things a little bit to get things in their favor. But now it's Froyotech's turn. They've had their moment where they've lost a half. Now they get to throw out the adjustment card. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Witness Gaming, they both teams when this happens, they can like try to predict the changes to like, all right, if they start doing this, then this is going to be our plan B, and they can enact that mid match. So maybe Witness could be doing that like at all if they get an idea of what Froyotech would be changing. But I don't know.
Yeah. I will say, looking at the logs here just a bit, Habib and Artis, I feel like are having very similar games. I think they're both playing very well. Um, I think the biggest difference so far that half was, and I don't know how Ash always manages to do this, no matter how like bad the map is for Soldier, but Ash always manages to go at least somewhat positive, or at least almost there. And he actually went positive on product on Pocket, so I think
Hmm.
that. And whereas Mirror Man, I think he did pretty well the first half, but that second half was a lot rougher for him. So I think definitely whatever the half adjustments were, or whatever Witness Gaming decided to fix, it definitely hurt the Froyo soldiers. I feel like the Froyo soldiers that half had a lot rougher time.
Well, a respectable amount of the match. I don't want to say all, but like at least the very beginning, and then throughout it in like little splotches, we saw Witness just basically hold us and farm. Like their soldiers, if they would bomb, it would be counter initiation bombs. They wouldn't go deep because if you go deep, you need to like if a soldier goes too deep, eventually he is just fighting things by himself because his team has to get through too much to like really get to the target. So if you're fighting like if your goal is a medic, for example, right? And he's too far back, the rest of your team's not gonna be able to help. So they've just been like chilling and trying to deal with the Froyotech members walking in. And so that probably explains Ash being able to get a lot of kills. Is if he's not necessarily going in right off the bat with every single fight that goes throughout this match and just waiting for Mirror Man and Marmalade to like land and then counter jump and kill them as players, or just even we saw Laz a couple times. I think probably even caught on cam where like the only time he would bomb in certain moments would be when Froyotech was actually beginning to walk forward and bomb themselves, and then he would bomb the point so that the people were easier to shoot at for his teammates if they like chose to help. And that was working out for them. So it definitely makes sense to see Ash with a positive like stat line as soldier on this map. That's usually how it goes, is trying to farm the other team as they try to do feeds and sacks and stuff like that. But we'll kind of see how that goes. I think Froyotech is probably smart enough to recognize that that was part of the thing that was
Yeah,
plaguing them. The other thing that wasn't working as much, I think it was more of a Witness Gaming thing, was the flanks from the side of Froyotech were no longer as lucrative. Like sometimes it would work, and they would still do it, but I don't think it was as much of a dominant thing. Like they would just walk across concrete and just collect kills. Especially there were
yeah.
tons of moments where they got like both scouts doing that too somehow. But it kind of stopped, whether it was one, them being unable to feel like they could do it properly, or two, Witness Gaming making sure that those kills weren't available for them in the first place. But I think that second half kind of showed that that was a piece of their game plan that was kind of just removed. So we'll have to see what Froyotech does and what their new uh, recipe for success is if they want to win this match.
Yeah, that is one thing I actually thought of, definitely, is that in the past, that was their kind of go-to, I feel like, was having players just run behind on Viaduct, or back when they had Thundersh on Scout. So definitely, maybe that's something they'll just figure out a way to get that to work again, or they'll just go totally back to the drawing board. We'll have to see. But on that note, so far in this bid, just deciding to trade spam, not too much going on. Ash actually kind of sitting on a cliff waiting for the bombs, and here they come. Both bombs. Habib gonna eat a bit of damage as Martis is gonna try to walk across, but Soldier's doing a really good job preventing a lot of the Witness Gaming players from walking across, and they already lost both soldiers, and not that much to gain for it. Some hurt players, but no cleanup to be had. So already kind of a lost mid from Witness, but not a disaster, because in the end they just kind of sacked both their soldiers and lost the mid. So that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, they played the very opposite of how we just described, how they're sitting back and farming. Immediately both starters went really deep and went to either side of the map. Lad's gonna die over on the flanks, and now we're cut. I feel like this is a deja vu of the first half. That we've seen the flank immediately die as soon as they approach, and they're dying again. High Five's dead here, and we saw immediate bombs that went so deep that no one else could help and use the distraction.
Here comes the Uber
coming out from Brand. Sam pushed. Oh, he got pushed forward. He got pushed forward from Spam's low guy. The beam broke and he was unable to flash him. This is not the start you want for the side of Witness, especially with the rounds that you have to prevent from happening, which is all of them. Froyotech only need one here, so great start for Froyotech.
Yeah, Froyo just need a couple things to go their way and they can easily win this match. Ash gonna go for another bomb, or at least a fake bomb. He actually is gonna go for the full and kind of get it locked on the point, but they're gonna get Marmalade. He's actually gonna live, so that's a huge play.
Artist behind.
On the Artist gonna die. Froyotech on the back, but kind of behind their own house. Here comes a big sack. They're trying to get this force. They do manage to get it, but we'll see at what cost, because they kind of lose everyone for it, and they didn't get the point off of it either. So at least their spawns aren't bad, but it looks like Froyotech actually they're kind of looking like they want to go for a forward hold. I see Habib on cliff. I see, maybe Habib just on cliff. He wants to go for a cheeky trap. They
know that Loga doesn't have Uber yet, but I mean, yeah, I think he just wants to trap. Don't want to play too aggressive. They already have so much time that they don't have to play super crazy and like really desperate. So
that's not even a trap. You just put the stickies on the floor.
I mean, stickies on the floor is a trap. But look at the flank plays. 3 people behind from the side of Froyotech. Trading one.
Huge bomb in from Armor. Banny's gonna get
He
into.
looped around spawn, able to get a low guy.
That's a sack.
Yeah, just barely enough damage, but the force does indeed happen. Pretty successful for them, and this is, I mean,
that's a smart play from Froyo. Look at the time.
But yeah, Witness can forward, but that's about all they got going for them. They got their first cap for this round. They got them. This has to be a super gnarly forward hold.
They're trying to go into the Artist stickies, and they're just gonna back up. They looked. Artist had like the red carpet rolled out for him, and they decided, we don't want that. Let's go the other side. They're gonna try to do that. They do have Uber right here, so we just got to be careful that they don't get rolled. Here's the Pyro, the all-time classic. They're gonna get through. Jay gonna be kind of hurt. Witness are gonna back up. Lokai having a nice surf. Jay gonna fall, but he did get them through the door, which is kind of the goal of the Pyro class, and they didn't have to use, which is the important thing. But in this game, you do have 70% rapidly approaching this Uber, so Froyo gotta go if they want to get this Uber. They can either get the point or actually get a good Uber off.
Yeah, immediately playing this fast chase.
They're trying to kill high five, and they kind of win.
Yeah, and Habib's actually going for a different target entirely, landing not where he probably wanted to.
Logai?
He gets Ash, but I mean, that's about it. Logai gonna get his Uber and be able to use it to like 12 HP, just barely.
Yeah,
but
just
only really give up Ash, try to chase down anyone.
Know.
Oh, maybe they
don't
know. No one's looking around for him. They don't know. He's about to sandwich the Mirror Man's gonna fall sandwich.
Yep, there we go.
Shot from Banny. Make sure that Logai does indeed fall. So that's huge from the side of Banny, and this is gonna be pretty big for Froyotech. I mean, they don't have Uber yet. They just used it, but long term, they're gonna be not only able to take this point just off of heals,
they do have spam
but the ad's gonna come into effect later. It's gonna be huge. Yeah, but
they can't really fight it up.
A little bit of damage to them, and then they shoot away, and that's the story of the round switch, the cap switch.
Yeah, we'll have to see here what Witness actually try to do, because this is rough. I feel like you almost have to dry fight in this scenario and do something before this Uber comes out, because if you let Froyo get this Uber, it's gonna be rough.
Sure. That's why they're so aggressive right now. Ash is gonna fall, unable to find the pack.
A lot of damage happening.
They get Habib, which is something. Logai a little bit alone. The flank is dying. Oh, Logai might just die here to the soldier bomb coming from the side of Marmalou. Popped up. Barely escaping, but not quite at the end of the day. Gonna be able to collect that medic frag, and that's not what you want from the side of Witness. Losing Artist very, very late as well. May has 100% Uber throughout all this, and this is looking like a little bit of a deja vu from the other rounds where, you kind of want to go to the point. You want to go to the point so you don't lose the round, but if the team has Uber and you got to run away from it. And the staggering from
the staggering is they're on their back foot. They're desperate.
This is a lost round.
Yeah. Although High Five gonna get mirror mitts, that is nice, but High Five also gonna fall for that. Jay gonna kill Logai. Yeah, this is a disaster. This is probably going to be the map. 5 seconds left. No one's even close. I see who's on sniper. Whoever that scout is, who is that Jay with me?
Yeah, that stagger at the end there was pure desperation, and it not working out. Sealed the deal for the match, but overall a good showing for the most part for both teams. A lot of time put on. It's always happy to see that on Viaduct. A little bit of a comeback from the side of Witness to put some rounds on the board. Not quite our predictions, but still a good show nonetheless. And Froyotech go undefeated this season for the regular season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, was this their final match of the season before playoffs? I actually
I
was
think
not
so.
aware of
Yeah,
that.
I think
Oh
they
yeah,
went
so
18-0.
yeah, congrats on Freya for the. I'm sure I don't know how many undefeated seasons they've had, but congrats to another one. I think a big accomplishment. On that note, yeah, I feel like this is a mixed bag for Witness Gaming because on one hand, they had to kind of prove themselves on this map, and yeah, they lost. They did have that comeback, which was nice, but in the end, Froyotech I feel like quickly ironed out the problems and had a pretty dominant round. So it's like, what do you take away from it? Do you take away the fact that you did come back, or do you take away the fact that you lost and you had to do a comeback in the first place?
I think heat of the moment, it's really easy to say that, like you wanted to win and you didn't, and that sucks. But ultimately, if you're able to, have some things go right for your team, it shows that you're making progress and that your ideas are somewhat validated. And losing in some aspect, especially in a match that didn't matter for them as much because it's regular season, they got their seed for playoffs. I mean, their seed isn't locked, but their playoffs is pretty much locked. It's not like winning this could have gotten them first. Um, they can at least like, all right, if we do end up playing Viaduct, we have a reference to look back on, find the things that we didn't do as well, and use that as a reference to go in for the more important matches of playoffs. And we've seen plenty of seasons throughout multiple different game modes and seasons and eras where in divisions where the team that gets victories in the regular season might not be the team that gets victories during the playoff run. So
Wasn't that the ESEA IM special? Was whoever was number one got like owned in playoffs? I think
yeah,
that was a thing at some point.
Yeah, that was the standard, and then there's been some sprinklings of that, like, throughout the seasons and, like, invite even not even, like, the 1st and 2nd seed, just, like, the s teams that get, like, 3rd and 4th seed don't necessarily end that way, or, like,
Look,
playoff
yeah,
bracket, it gets a bit wonky with lower bracket and stuff, but do
it's
have
like
Froyotech funneling in here.
yeah, we do have a Annie, Habib, Marmalou, May. Wow, we got four of the squad here. All right.
I may get more.
Yeah, Jay's supposed to go.
Ooh.
Can wait a bit for Jay. I mean, we can ask some light questions. We can talk about the map pick, Koth.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
long staple of sixes, and everyone's pretty familiar with it. Can you talk a little bit about what your guys' initial thoughts were going into the map? Maybe like your baseline strategy before you saw how things were going to transpire against Witness in particular.
Usually our strategy is, well, especially going against Witness Gaming, is to try to be very mindful of their soldiers, Ash and Laz. I think that a lot of the situations that ended up sort of falling apart for us were because we ended up letting Laz through and he would make a play. So we definitely can do a better job of that, but a lot of the rounds that we won was off of us keeping that to a minimum. Otherwise, Viaduct just trying to play aggressive, trying to make sure the heal spread is correct and everyone is sort of enabled to, go for plays and collapse when needed, all that kind of stuff.
I have a question for flank in particular for Jay and Marmalou throughout the match. I think the amount of aggression and success you're able to find and like going behind and making plays, it felt really wavy. Like there were moments in the beginning where you guys would go insane and get tons of space and almost solo win fights, and then things kind of changed in the second half a little bit and things kind of slowed down. I think it was more difficult to have that be like a mainstay, like the go-to for retakes and stuff, and then it started to kick back up again. Can you talk a little bit about some of the issues that transpired that you eventually overcame to allow you to continue to do what worked so well in the very beginning?
Well, it felt like at least first half, at least the second half, when we started struggling a bit more, they rotated it felt like 3 people there most of the game. And I know Carter or Ash just spammed the hell out of me on concrete, and they were stacking it a lot more, so it was a little bit harder. But then we started doing stuff other places, so it opened it up a bit more for me and Jay.
How do you guys feel about the return of High Five? That's I don't know how long it's been. A familiar face, been around a long time. I'm sure that's nice to be able to play against him or with him again. Depending
Yeah,
which
that
team you're
is
on.
correct.
That was kind of an animal. He was going off.
I agree.
Well,
Bishop.
Yeah, I'd say, gameplay wise, it seems like a good upgrade for them, or a good fit, I should say. I'm, a bit concerned about the circumstances around the roster change. I would prefer things to be purely, gameplay related, but I think that there's some behind the scenes like drama and stuff that's factoring into it, which you never are happy about. But I'm glad that at least the team is continuing on despite those challenges.
I had a question for May for this map in particular. I feel like throughout playing, you hear some medics that are like, "Oh, I love Viaduct. Like, I love the challenge and the thrill of like it being survival mode of TF2 for the most part." And other medics that are like, "I hate this map. It's a death trap. There's nowhere I can stand. I always die. And if I don't die, then I'm baiting my entire team. It sucks." Can you give us a little bit of insight on how you feel about this map in general? Just you playing as medic, and then some of the things that you try to do to make sure that you're surviving in a good spot, but you're also being effective for your team as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can't reveal too much strategy,
Of
but
course.
Viaduct is definitely my favorite map to play. Like in the rotation, I'm really glad that they brought it back. Um, really, like what Viaduct comes down to on Medic is understanding like how to juke people, kind of, because if you kind of like stay stagnant and you're always in the same spot, then they figure out where you are and then they can like send three-man sacks on you. That's kind of what was happening a lot of times in the second half, was like somebody would get in unseen or I would be going the same way pretty much every time and then they would just like bomb a guy onto my face. So really it just comes down to like kind of versatility. That's why I really like product, is because you can just be so mobile and move around so much as medic and like follow people to certain fights, or you can just like, there's some situations you don't even have to commit to at all. You just fucking leave to spawn, and then your team goes for like a 5-man sack, and it's easy, you know.
All right, one thing I was kind of thinking of, Mir, I mean, Pocket on Koth, especially this map in particular, can be very sacrificial and could be hard to really find a way to get things done sometimes. Can you talk a little bit about the ways that you try to make yourself as useful as possible, even if you can't have like a shiny like stat line or anything like some of your teammates? Soldier class prison. Oh wait, Mario isn't even here.
Yeah,
He's the
he's
one.
not
He's the
here
one
as
person
well.
not here.
I was like,
Unfortunate. I just
I mean-
honestly, I kind of
Marvel
just
answer.
I kind of just assumed everyone was in the
No,
mumble,
no,
so
no.
that's my bad.
Well, one thing I'll give Mirman credit for is that he's had a less than ideal setup this week. He was playing on a laptop yesterday and today on 60 hertz, so he's definitely a trooper playing through those challenges. But yeah, I think part of the challenge definitely for him is that the scouts from Witness Gaming are very heel heavy, and they're going to try and deny every opening. But I think he did a good job of finding times to collapse and flank and things like that. So he also said that Artist, I think, was trying to shut him down a lot with like traps and spam. So he was trying to avoid that and just trying to do his best when he doesn't have a lot of heals. So
All right, it's time to move on to classic MVP phase. A lot of chaos happens on Viaduct as always, but there's usually one or two people that sticks out in your mind that shine through and really did a lot for your teams. Any thoughts on who carried the torch this match? Who's the big player, the star?
May.
I say May.
Yeah,
Yeah.
May.
And
Definitely.
Banny, actually.
Benny. I
thanks.
was gonna say Benny.
Well,
Obviously, I can't say myself.
I could have done more, but I think definitely always got to give credit to May for withstanding the pressure on a map like Viaduct where it's pretty intense. And especially that like pipe spam drop, things like that. Just being able to brush things like that off and stay focused, I think, is a testament to a great medic player. So shout out to May.
Yeah, I would say Banny, mostly because the kind of rigid structure that he provides as a main caller is something that like is very easy to thrive in, and then it's also super easy for me to heal people because I've kind of got this like sphere of people around me that are super easy to bow. Like our soldiers are really easy to bow, and lately like I've kind of figured out how to heal our scout players a lot better. So I would say Banny.
All
I,
right.
s- I said banning because he told me to stop feeding.
That's that rigid structure, Jay.
Well,
Oh, was that the
yeah.
second half?
Yeah,
Reality check.
yeah.
Second half, definitely. I think we got a little too chaotic, a little too antsy, greedy, whatever it may be. A couple of the situations where we like chased too hard. You know, Jay had a couple of those. I told him to just be mindful of
Just
chasing.
expose me, dude. Just expose me.
Be careful about sniping too much. You know, just things like that. Because it
Some
did
good
feel like
shots.
it felt like we were playing as if we were playing against like the invite hostages and up 3-0, and it's like
That's fucked up.
we're playing against Witness Gaming. Let's stay focused here.
That's the good thing though. Even in like high stakes situations like that, it's not like, hey, get off sniper. It's like, try to steer away from doing that next time. Like we don't focus on the moment too much. We try to
Yeah.
improve like further on. We learn from what happens
Definitely want to.
rather than arguing about it.
It's always a good trait.
Yeah, it's one thing that is odd about the configs that we use is that you get like 2 half times on Koth sometimes.
Get 3
Yeah.
halves.
So it's you know, we always tend to be good at adapting and changing things. So having that second halftime when we started losing definitely helped us to get back on track
There's a lot of room for good discourse there.
for sure.
All right, well, got any more questions, Space? Or are we
I'm
wrapping
good.
up? All right, well, time to move over to the shout-outs. Got any shout-outs before we go ahead and wrap up the stream, starting with Banny going down?
Cool. Well, shout out to you guys for putting on the stream tonight and everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the match. Shout out to my teammates for, you know, showing up, playing. Shout out to Mirman for playing despite the, you know, computer issues. Shout out to WG for not baiting everyone again. Then, you know, playoffs coming up, obviously. Everyone tune in for that. It's going to be a 1 weekend playoffs. Pretty exciting. I'm glad RGL is implementing that style. So I think it'll make it a lot more exciting and make playoffs a less of a sort of a drag, you know. I did want to shout out an upcoming event. We've got a SoCal meetup, TF2 LAN, happening April 24th at the same venue as the last LAN, Fullerton, California local host. So come by there if you're in the SoCal area. Myself and Sandblast will be there. Maybe some other, you know, cool players. Maybe we'll have some announcements of other people attending. And stay tuned for a big announcement about a major LAN very, very soon.
It's hype. Any shout-outs, Abib?
Yeah, shout outs to you guys doing it as usual on the production. Shout outs to the viewers. Hope we could have put on a good TF2 for y'all as usual. Shout outs to WG, good game. And yeah, that's all I got for now.
Jay?
Shout outs to my team, WG, RGL production, and you guys, the casters. And yeah, that's it.
Romelu?
Shout out to Tyler. Happy birthday. Can I get a happy birthday, Mirror Man in chat?
Ooh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to Mir.
Happy birthday, Mirror.
May?
Shout out to the production team as always. Jarrett and Space Ghost, again, always a pleasure. Shout out to my team, obviously, the goats of every class. Shout out to Mirrorman, obviously, because it's his birthday. And yeah, I think that's it.
Space?
Shout out to Freyo, you guys, and Witness for patiently waiting for the highlight to end. Always appreciated. Yeah.
True.
Yep. Shout out to that. Shout out to shout out to all the viewers and all you guys playing well as always. And yeah, I'll give a ski shout out. Why not? I saw him in chat.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I was worried about the Highlander going to a third map and be like, oh no, what are we gonna do? We gotta delay even more, or just like cast it on like impromptu RGL2, or I don't know. But everything worked out. It worked out fine. So, but thanks you guys for writing on the lesson. Thank you guys for all watching and hanging out with us. Definitely want to keep your eyes peeled. I think there's a couple more matches lingering around, especially some really important ones that could like decide who ends up being 4th seed. I think there's still like at least one, maybe both of like the Cozy versus Mal matches that need to happen that could decide who gets into playoffs. And then obviously there's playoffs that'll happen right after that. So things are starting to get pretty intense and definitely going to be very interesting. You definitely want to make sure you catch it if you are around. But for tonight, that's going to be it for us. I've been Jarrett, casting with Space Girls with Dolphin on production. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Bye.